The Chamber is convinced that the MUP staff was a key body in both 1998 and 1999, with substantial authority over units falling under the MUP Public Security Department, including special police units when they were deployed to Kosovo, although it did not replace the chains of command within the various MUP units and secretariats. The MUP staff liaised with the VJ to ensure full coordination of MUP and VJ activities in Kosovo, and had an important role in the planning of joint VJ and MUP operations. It also provided a link to the MUP headquarters in Belgrade, to which it regularly reported. The Chamber is satisfied that as head of the MUP staff, Lukić was endowed with significant authority over the MUP forces answering to the MUP staff. Indeed, he was understood to be the commander of MUP forces in Kosovo by the foreign diplomats and observers with whom he interacted in Kosovo, and he attended meetings with them on behalf of the MUP staff. He also regularly attended and participated in meetings of the Joint Command and other high-level meetings, including in Belgrade. The Chamber finds, therefore, that Lukić was a de facto commander of MUP forces in Kosovo from mid-1998 to mid-1999, as well as being the bridge between the actions of the MUP on the ground in Kosovo and the overarching plans and policies decided in Belgrade. The evidence establishes that Lukić had detailed knowledge of events in Kosovo as they developed, as well as being informed of allegations of criminal conduct by MUP personnel there. However, the Chamber is not convinced by the evidence brought that Lukić was involved in the concealment of these crimes through the clandestine transportation of civilian bodies from Kosovo to other parts of Serbia. Having briefly described the Chamber's conclusions concerning each of the accused, I shall now turn to our findings in relation to the joint criminal enterprise set out in the indictment and the accused's alleged participation therein. The most compelling evidence in support of the allegation that there was a common purpose to modify the ethnic balance in Kosovo in order to ensure continued control by the FRY and Serbian authorities over the province is the evidence establishing the widespread campaign of violence that was directed against the Kosovo Albanian population between March and June 1999, and the resulting massive displacement of that population. The campaign was conducted in an organized manner, utilizing significant state resources, and the Chamber heard evidence from numerous witnesses about the fact that they were directed to leave Kosovo for Albania or Macedonia, and that they were forced to relinquish their personal identity documents, either as they began their departure, en route, or at the border. These documents were never returned to them. Other factors which the Chamber has taken into account in reaching the conclusion that there was indeed a common purpose to use violence and terror to force a significant number of Kosovo Albanians from their homes and across the borders in order for the state authorities to maintain control over Kosovo are these: the events leading up to the conflict, the arming of non-Albanian civilians in Kosovo and simultaneous disarming of Kosovo Albanians, the breakdown of negotiations to end the Kosovo crisis at the same time as the October agreements were being breached by the FRY and Serbian authorities, and the concealment of bodies of Kosovo Albanians killed by VJ and MUP forces. The Chamber is not, however, convinced that murder, sexual assault, or the destruction or damage of religious property was within the common purpose. and only considers whether these crimes were reasonably foreseeable in the execution of the common purpose when addressing each of the accused. Being satisfied that there was such a common purpose among high-level officials in the FRY and Serbia, who were in a position to execute it through the various forces under their control, the Chamber has analysed whether or not each of the accused participated voluntarily in the joint criminal enterprise, made a significant contribution to it, and shared the intent to commit the crimes or underlying offences that were the object of the enterprise. The Chamber is not satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that Milan Milutinović made a significant contribution to the joint criminal enterprise. The Chamber does not accept that Milutinović had a legal duty to act to prevent the events that transpired in Kosovo, arising from his oath of office alone, in the absence of significant de jure or de facto powers. In addition, it is not prepared to accept that his contribution by omission was significant, given Milutinovic's lack of authority over the forces that were committing the crimes in question. Moreover, the Chamber is unconvinced that Milutinović shared the intent to use criminal means, namely deportation and forcible transfer, to retain control over Serbia by the state authorities. The Chamber is satisfied that Nikola Šainović had substantial de facto powers over both the MUP and the VJ operating in Kosovo, and that he was the political coordinator of these forces. It is convinced that he made a significant contribution to the joint criminal enterprise, and that indeed he was one of the most crucial members of that common enterprise. From all the evidence, the Chamber finds that it is the only reasonable inference that Šainović had the intent to forcibly displace part of the Kosovo Albanian population, both within and without Kosovo, and thereby to change the ethnic balance in the province and ensure continued control by the state authorities over it. The Chamber also finds that the murder of Kosovo Albanian civilians by VJ and MUP forces executing the common criminal plan was reasonably foreseeable to Šainović, as was the destruction of or damage to religious property, namely mosques. However, by majority, the Chamber does not find that the commission of sexual assault was foreseeable to him. The Chamber finds that, although there is considerable evidence supporting the prosecution's allegation that Dragoljub Ojdanić was supportive of the commission of crimes throughout Kosovo by VJ and MUP forces in a widespread and systematic attack targeting Kosovo Albanians, it has not been proved beyond reasonable doubt that he shared the intent to ensure continued state control over the province by way of deportation and forcible transfer of a significant proportion of the Kosovo Albanian population. However, by his continued actions in command of the VJ forces subordinated to him, the Chamber finds that Ojdanić provided practical assistance, encouragement, or moral support to members of the VJ who he knew intended to commit deportation and forcible transfer. His conduct had a substantial effect on the actual commission of these crimes by VJ forces in some of the locations charged in the indictment. However, the Chamber finds that Ojdanić did not have knowledge that VJ forces had the intent to kill or sexually assault Kosovo Albanian civilians or to damage